This video is part of a series that covers all the new features, evolutions, and fixes introduced in the successive service packs following the release of Automic Automation version 21. In this video, we describe those features for the service pack number shown in red. Some of the items listed are important changes that warrant further exploration. They may require user behavior changes, or they might represent some of the more arcane aspects of the technology, and so they're listed in red in the overview. As such, they'll have dedicated slides. Others are minor, and we list them for awareness. They will be listed in black and will not have dedicated content. All items are grouped together by components: Automic Automation, Kubernetes Edition, AWI, agents, and so forth. The following are the new features and improvements included in Service Pack 2107. In baseline Automic Automation, we should focus on the feature essential to the central agent upgrade. This only applies to the CAU process during an upgrade of a non-TLS to TLS agents. We have a UC system settings value called JCP endpoint CAU override, which forces the CAU process to set a custom value for the JCP in the connection setting of the agent's INI file. We have a storage object called UC trusted cert, which allows us to store a certificate file in client 0, which all new agents downloaded in AWI will use. Finally, a file transfer from a source TLS agent to a non-TLS target relies on the TLS gateway. The automation engine has been redesigned so that the source agent selects a TLS gateway that belongs to the same net area. This is an advanced feature in Automic Automation, and we'll spend a bit of time on this. In AWI, we've made some improvements to the way task dependencies and run IDs are displayed, specifically in Tooltips. The scope of this feature is narrow. We're only talking about situations where a GSS agent, in other words, one that is not secured with TLS, is upgraded to TLS level security by ways of the centralized agent upgrade. Under default circumstances, CAU updates the connection equal setting in the agent's INI file to the standard JCP hostname and port of the automation engine. But you may need to point to another JCP. You're able to bypass the connection equal parameter with a UC system settings key called JCP endpoint CAU override. You set it to the appropriate JCP and port, and CAU will use that one instead when writing the value to the INI file. There's a new storage object in the div variables folder of client 0 called UC trusted cert. Up to this point, each time you deployed the TLS agents, you needed to copy the certificate locally and then reference the location of that certificate in the agent's INI file. This imposed a fair amount of administration work. UC trusted certs allows you to create a value, which would always be called JCP_cert, and then upload the certificate locally in client 0. This certificate will then provide universal support for all agents across the entire infrastructure when they're downloaded via AWI. We have 3 fields: operating system, platform, and hardware. This allows further fine-tuning in the use of the certificate, as you can make it applicable to specific OSs and so forth. If you don't need filters, you can just place star symbols in each column. To upload the cert, you simply click in the box under File Upload. A local file system browse function appears. We'd like to spend a bit of time on this next feature because it's one of the more arcane aspects of agent management in Automic. The good news is there's no functional impacts. This adjustment was made directly in the product and is transparent to the users. There are 2 major aspects to this. First, we have the TLS gateway. One of the purposes of the gateway is to allow TLS agents to execute file transfer operations to non-TLS agents. The second component is the net area. Net area is a form of grouping of components based on functional role. For example, you could group the operating system agents in one net area and all other components, AWI or Java agents, in another. This is one use of the net area, but there are many others. The components of each area connect to dedicated JCPs and CPs. TLS agents in Net Area 1 connect to JCP-X on port 8443, while agents in Net Area 2 connect to JCP-Y on port 8444. Non-TLS agents connect to CPs, which can also be net area specific. Again, this is just an example to illustrate how it works. To configure this, we deploy 2 ucsrv.ini files with different names. The system setting in the global section and the PWP port setting in the TCP/IP section do not change. They're not affected by net areas. What does change is the JCP port, identified by the ws.port parameter, and the CP ports identified by cp.ports. Both are found in the port section. We also have to specify the respective net areas under the TCP/IP section. Then, in the respective agents and gateway INIs, we use the connection setting to set the JCP and port matching the UCSRV's definitions. In the first, we set the JCP to 8443, and so for TLS agents in net area 1, the connection setting would point to that port. The same goes for non-TLS agents and the CPs. This configuration would then be replicated for net area 2 with the proper adjustments. When the AE and the agents are started, the net areas are explicitly listed for each process in the engine administration page and for each agent and agent administration. This is relevant to the service packs because until now, when a file transfer executed between a TLS and non-TLS agents, the agent would rely on a TLS gateway chosen randomly, without consideration for the net area. This has been addressed. Agents will default to TLS gateways associated with their matching net areas for both consistency and performance. In AWI, we've made some improvements to the way task dependencies and run IDs are displayed, specifically in Tooltips. In the process monitoring perspective, you can place your mouse on any task in a workflow. Tooltips are displayed. We've added 2 information points, the dependency and type, and the run ID.